You'll be staying home during our family trip because it's not enjoyable when outsiders are around. As for souvenirs, if I remember, I suppose I could bring you something. Came the triumphant voice of my mother-in-law over the phone. I was supposed to go on this trip with my in-laws and my husband. Yet, here I was, left behind. Ever since we got married, my mother-in-law, who dotes on her son, never lets a day go by without making a snide remark or nagging me. Stay at home. That's going to be a problem. Upon hearing my response, my mother-in-law laughed as if mocking me. Is that a problem? Poor you. Just think of it as punishment for not listening to my advice. The phone line went dead abruptly. A problem. Not me, but you guys, right? My name is Jessica. A 30-year-old working housewife. I manage household chores and work part-time at the local supermarket. It's been 3 years since I married my husband, Mike. Mike was a coworker at the company I used to work for. Although we belonged to different departments, we were on the same floor and often chatted even before we started dating. What brought us closer was a year-end party at the office. At this cross-departmental gathering, I happened to sit next to Mike. We were already close, so our conversation flowed as usual. Mike excused himself to go to the bathroom at one point, and I was left listening to the lively chatter of the group next to us. That's when a drunken boss from another department started to bother me, persistently urging me to drink more. Not sure how to respond, as he was a boss I rarely dealt with, Mike returned from the bathroom just in time. He glanced at me and the boss, then calmly placed his hands on the boss's shoulders and led him away to another table. After a while, Mike returned to our table alone and asked me, "That guy really can't handle his alcohol, can he? Are you okay?" That was when I began to see Mike in a different light, and I confessed my feelings first, which led to our relationship. Our relationship progressed smoothly from there, and we got married 3 years ago. While we don't have children yet, our relationship as a married couple is solid. Despite the fulfillment of our married life, there is one issue that troubles me. That is my mother-in-law, with whom we are living. Currently, Mike and I are living in his parents' house. When we first got married, we lived in an apartment, but there was a fire in the neighboring unit, and our apartment was also flooded due to the water used in the firefighting effort. We had no choice but to evacuate as the apartment was uninhabitable. We were at a loss about where to go while the apartment was being repaired when Mike's mother offered, "Why don't you two stay at our place?" We took up her offer and decided to live with Mike's parents. We were grateful for their offer at the time. The problem started after we moved in. Although she occasionally made snide comments even before, I had accepted them because of her deep love for Mike. However, after we started living together, the intensity of her nagging increased. For instance, one weekend. It happened as I was enjoying a cup of coffee in the living room after finishing all the housework. My mother-in-law, who had been out, came home and immediately started bustling about the house. Then she came up to me and said, "Jessica, your cleaning is too sloppy. You need to spend more time on it and put some gratitude into it for your hardworking husband. As his wife, it's your duty to support him. I can't believe you can't even do this much, you're failing as a wife. If you're unhappy, then leave. Right now." To be honest, I thought, here we go again. I've been told the same thing almost every day. After all, the only reason she let us live together is because she wanted to live with her son Mike again, and my presence as a wife is probably nothing more than an annoyance to her. Mom, please don't be so hard on Jessica. Well, there is some truth to what you're saying. Even if she's working part-time, slacking off on housework isn't good. More often than not, Mike tends to side with his mother. While it's not wrong to value his biological mother, I sometimes wish he would stick up for me, his wife. In fact, it's not my intention to neglect house chores. Despite working 4 days a week, even if it's for a short time, I've never once neglected my duties of managing the household chores for our family of 4. This remains true even when I'm not feeling well. On the other hand, my mother-in-law, although a housewife, is out and about having fun almost every day. Since we started living together, I've never seen her do any household chores. However, given that we're living under her roof, I can't openly complain. In this awkward environment, I just kept my patience. Then one day, something unusual happened. Mike suggested that we should go on a trip, just the two of us. Why don't we go to a spa resort next month? The busy season has ended, and I have to take some annual leave. If I'm going to take a break, I thought it would be nice to relax somewhere. A spa, huh? Sounds great. I haven't requested any work shifts for next month yet, so I can take any time off. After discussing various things, we decided to go on a 2-day spa trip in the middle of the next month. As we plan to go on a weekday, we'll probably be able to spend our time quietly and without any rush. I was so excited and couldn't hold back. I kept gathering information about our destination whenever I had time. And just when I thought we should start booking our stay, my mother-in-law started to say something outrageous. Jessica, I heard you're going on a trip with Mike. Why didn't you tell me? To be honest, I was afraid she would say something like I'm going too, if she found out. But I couldn't say that, so as I was fumbling for words, my mother-in-law sighed in exasperation. Then she said exactly what I was afraid she would. Next month is the anniversary of my husband and me. I'd love to celebrate with a family trip. I think a luxurious hotel would be nice. Like a child, my mother-in-law started to throw a tantrum about wanting to go. Of course, I don't want to go on a trip with my mother-in-law at all. But this time, Mike and I were thinking of going by ourselves. How about we go together next time? I tried to be as accommodating as possible in my response. But my mother-in-law wouldn't back down. It's not the same if it's not this time. It's our anniversary celebration. If that's the case, she should just go with her husband. Just as I was about to say that, Mike came home from work. Mike, welcome home. I was just talking to Jessica about the trip. Oh, I can't wait. My mother-in-law, already excited to go, started to express her wishes. And Mike seemed to agree with her. I wondered who let the cat out of the bag about the trip, but with the way things were going, it was probably Mike who told my mother-in-law. Noticing my gaze, Mike looked a little uncomfortable. Mom's really looking forward to it, so let's postpone our trip for another time. It'll be even more fun if we all go together. From the way Mike was talking, it seemed like he'd already decided we were all going on the trip. Then my father-in-law joined in, saying, "A vacation, huh? Sounds like fun." With that, it became impossible for me to refuse going on this trip with the 4 of us. All right, next time, it's just gonna be the 2 of us, promise. Although reluctant, I agreed, and Mike gave me a look of relief. I wasn't quite satisfied, but there was nothing I could do about it at this point. At the very least, I decided I would be the one to choose the sightseeing spots we wanted to visit and the local dishes we wanted to eat, so I took on the task of making all the hotel reservations and planning the sightseeing schedule. My mother-in-law dislikes making such preparations, so my suggestions went through without a hitch. Then came the day of the trip. I had packed everything like clothes in my suitcase the day before, so the plan was to get up an hour before departure, have a leisurely breakfast, and then leave the house. I woke up to the sound of my alarm clock and stretched out on the spot. Mike? I then realized that Mike, who should have been sleeping next to me, was not there. Thinking that he might have already gotten up and started preparing, I headed for the living room. But Mike was not in the living room. Not in the bathroom, kitchen, or the front door either. Even my mother-in-law and father-in-law were nowhere to be found. Could it be? With a sinking feeling, I dialed Mike's cell phone. But the call didn't connect. When I called my mother-in-law's phone next, she answered immediately. "Oh, Jessica dear. What's up? Mike can't pick up the phone right now because he's driving." "Driving? Where on earth are the 3 of you right now?" When I asked that, my mother-in-law replied in a nonchalant manner. "Isn't it obvious? We're on a family vacation. We can't enjoy a family vacation with an outsider around, so you'll have to stay at home. If we remember, we might even get you a souvenir." I could hear my mother-in-law's triumphant voice over the phone. "Stay at home. That's going to be a problem." At my words, my mother-in-law laughed scornfully. "Is that a problem? Poor you. Just think of it as punishment for not listening to my advice." With that, she hung up the phone abruptly. I covered my face with both hands and shook my shoulders. But what came out of my mouth was not a sob, but a hearty laugh. They'd better enjoy their journey. I'm sure they'll regret leaving me behind. I quickly opened a hotel booking site. And I booked a fancy hotel in the tourist spot we were supposed to visit today. Then I also made a reservation at a restaurant where I could have a delicious dinner. Of course, just for one person. Then, after quickly getting dressed and putting on makeup, I ate breakfast. All right, time to have fun. I grabbed my luggage and jumped on the train. Since I'd gone to the trouble of researching various tourist spots, I wanted to go on a vacation. With that single-minded desire, I set off on a solo trip. It's a small tourist spot, so I might run into Mike and in-laws, but I'm not bothered. After all, they're the ones at fault. As I was thinking about this, the train finally reached its destination. From this point on, I'll forget about my mother-in-law and Mike and enjoy myself to the fullest. With that in mind, I walked into a quaint boutique I spotted, had tea in a trendy cafe, and mingled with the locals, thoroughly enjoying my trip. And as the day turned into night, it was finally time to check in. The hotel I'd booked was among the top luxury hotels in this area. I thought I needed to do something as drastic as this to refresh myself. As I passed through the automatic hotel doors, heading towards the check-in counter, I heard a woman's loud voice. "Why can't we stay here? We're willing to pay." Looking closer, it was my mother-in-law causing the commotion. Of course they wouldn't be able to stay as this wasn't the hotel I had booked for the four of us. Observing from a safe distance, I noticed Mike spotted me as he exclaimed, "Hey! Jessica! What's going on? We couldn't stay at the hotel you had booked, so we had to find another hotel, and they're full." As he approached me aggressively, my mother-in-law did the same. Her face was turning beet red with anger. Well, that's expected. After all, they won't hand over the keys unless the person who made the reservation is present. It's a security measure. I did warn you, didn't I? At this point, they finally seemed to realize their foolishness, exchanging glances in utter disbelief. Just as they were about to create more ruckus, several hotel staff members rushed over. The sight of my mother-in-law being gently but firmly escorted out of the hotel was quite comical. "Remember this. We will stay in a place far more luxurious than this hotel." Feeling somewhat relieved, I decided to check into the hotel, leaving my accommodation-less mother-in-law and Mike behind. After completing the check-in process, I was escorted to my room. With its clean decor and luxurious interior, I felt as though I was in a dream. Once I put down my luggage, I decided to explore the hotel. After strolling around the hotel for a while, I returned to the check-in lobby. Guests keep coming in. I sat on the sofa in the lobby and was spaced out for a while when a pair of young women sat next to me. The two were excited, exchanging their impressions of the hotel. And they started to talk about something interesting. "Hey, do you know? It's about the hotel near the station. There's a very bad rumor about it. Apparently, you can hear hallucinations in the second-floor room and all your belongings get stolen. Not only that, but it seems there was even a case where someone died. And no one knows who's responsible to this day. We're lucky to be staying here, aren't we? Is that true? But why hasn't anyone been arrested? You would call the police in such a case, wouldn't you? Well, there are rumors that the hotel staff are in on it too. So scary." What a dangerous story. When I casually looked at the time, it was almost time for my dinner reservation. I stood up in a hurry and rushed to the restaurant. I'm so satisfied. After enjoying the dinner, I returned to the hotel. I took a bath, changed into my pajamas, and was watching TV when my smartphone alerted me to an incoming call. "Hello. We found a hotel we can stay in. It's super comfortable. Too bad you can't stay here with us. Well, we'll enjoy it twice as much for you, so no worries." It was from my cheerful mother-in-law. Is that so? You're lucky to have found a place to stay on such short notice. When I responded nonchalantly, my mother-in-law continued. "Isn't it? It's quiet and easy to spend time because there are hardly any other guests. It's close to the tourist spot and it's a beautiful hotel. I wonder why that is." That's when I realized. Could it be the hotel near the station? That's right. What about it? I remembered the story about the bad reputation hotel I heard in the hotel lobby before I went to dinner. "I think you should run." I didn't necessarily believe the rumor was true, but where there's smoke, there's fire. But my mother-in-law laughed off what I said. "Are you jealous of us staying at a good place? Well then, be regretful. Bye." Again, my mother-in-law hung up the phone one-sidedly. I didn't feel like calling her back. I gave my advice, and I fulfilled my duty. I turned off my smartphone. I didn't want my relaxation time to be disturbed anymore. After that, I spent a leisurely time and fell into a comfortable sleep. And the next day. After checking out of the hotel, I visited the tourist spots I couldn't go to the day before, and arrived home when the sun was setting. There was light leaking out of the windows of the house. It seemed that the three of them had already returned home. "I'm home," I purposely announced my return in my usual tone. When I opened the door to the living room, all three of them started making a fuss at once. I, who was taken aback, managed to calm the three down. Then my mother-in-law started to talk about the incident that happened last night. After the three had gone to sleep, there seemed to be rustling sounds. Then, my mother-in-law reported hearing the noise of someone entering the room. Paralyzed by fear, she quietly stayed in bed, and the intruder seemed to wander around the room for about 10 minutes before silently leaving. Feeling relieved, my mother-in-law drifted back to sleep, only to wake up the next morning to find that all of their belongings, including the wallets and smartphones that were supposed to be on the desk, had vanished. All that was left was the coin pouch and key holder that Mike had put in his jacket's inside pocket. In a panic, they informed the hotel staff, only to be told, "Please pay for the room at least," and didn't even call the police. The troubled trio used the coins Mike had to make a call from a public phone to a relative living nearby, asking for help. Fortunately, the relative seemed to arrive quickly, covering the hotel charges and somehow getting them back home. They said they would go to the police to report the incident soon, and that's when their anger turned towards me. "If only you had told us more seriously to run. We wouldn't have ended up in this situation." "That's right. You bear some responsibility for this incident, Jessica. What are you going to do about it?" But if my in-laws hadn't left me behind to go on a trip, this wouldn't have happened in the first place. When I expressed this candidly, Mike raised his voice. "Shut up. You're just the wife, don't get cheeky. We're getting a divorce. I can't put up with you anymore." I was too flabbergasted to say anything. I silently went to our bedroom, pulled out something from the cabinet, and returned to the living room to show it to Mike. "Divorce? Fine by me. I don't need a husband who won't protect his bullied wife." Mike's face turned pale. What I had brought out were the divorce papers I had asked a lawyer to prepare. I had been preparing for this day might come. Perhaps not expecting that I would agree, Mike was flustered. "Eh? No, maybe we should think about it a little more." But then, mother-in-law seized the opportunity to start pushing Mike towards the divorce. "You should just get rid of such a horrible wife now. Your mom will find you someone new." Unable to go against his mother, Mike eventually agreed to the divorce. "Well then, goodbye. Please enjoy your life with your beloved family." I ignored Mike, who was breaking down on the spot, and walked out of the house. Later, through my lawyer, I submitted the divorce papers, and the divorce was successfully finalized. Several times after that, Mike pathetically begged me to get back together, but of course, I ignored all of them. "I'm going to protect Jessica from now on," he said, but it was too late. On the other hand, mother-in-law, who had managed to get rid of the pesky me, seemed to be in high spirits for a while, but that didn't last long. The news of the divorce and the end of their cohabitation spread in the neighborhood, and the rumor-loving people traced it back to her harassment of me, exposing her nasty character. She started getting pointed at from people around her, and it seemed that finding a new wife for Mike was no longer a priority. I returned to my hometown and managed to find a new job thanks to a friend's introduction. I've had enough of marriage for now. I think I'm going to enjoy being single for a while.